All right. Make sure I got everything going. Hey everybody, how's it going? Today, as kind of promised, well, mostly promised, we will be working on the cover for issue 1 that we were working on last week. So, give me a minute. I gotta get my pencils and stuff ready, and my lighting isn't right. This is like always a thing. One of these days, I will have it together. Oh, all of a sudden, that's no light. What's going on? Do I want that? Ooh, no, I do not want that. I prefer natural light. Yeah, one of these days I'll get it together, and when we start one of these streams, we'll be ready. We'll be ready. My phone just buzzed. Give me a moment. Oh, okay, never mind. It's nothing important. Alright, what I need are my pencils. Right? Yes, let's get our pencils together. Let's see what I've got here. There they are. I am momentarily ill-prepared, but that's only because I was doing homework a minute ago. And so I looked at the time and said, oh, I said I would be streaming at this time, so that's what I need to be doing right now. So, you know, bear with me. Okay, I think I am good to go. All right, so there we go. Let's see what we've got going on here today. All right. So, as you saw last week, we have put together our entire issue 1. I'm feeling really good about it. I love the way every page looks right now. Just gonna do a nice little recap here of all the things that we did last week. Some explosive happenings here, and I like it. So what I want to do is build a cover today that kind of takes some of these ideas from out of the issue itself and, you know, kind of puts it on display. So we're going back to our layout pages right here, just so that we're designing a cover in a way that, you know, is not going to be extra wasteful. Like, I don't want to go directly onto my final pages trying to draw up a cover. I want to kind of get the layout and design of it down first. So that's why I wanted my pencils, actually. That'll help out with that process. So now here's the thing. I have already come up with a few cover ideas, or rather I saw some things that I liked in the last iteration of this issue 1 that I feel like I want to hold on to. So let's kind of take a look at some of these and what they were. So I like this one. I think this is really kind of cool. The idea was that it was supposed to show our main character, Teos, here, just kind of holding the world in his hands, and he's surrounded by 8 stars. These stars are supposed to be his partners here, his friends here that were in this first issue that we get to see. And that's where that was going. And this one right here was a lot more involved, and it really goes into a lot more of the myth of him, and I think that's a little too much it's a little too much symbolism and just a whole lot of whatever is going on here in this for that first cover, and I don't really think that's really getting at anything. Next, I had come up with some ideas of, you know, the characters themselves, showing them off in different ways. I don't know, I forget what I was trying to do here with this page, but that's irrelevant. We're not using that one. This one over here I think is kind of cool. It's kind of in a similar vein to what was happening here. And then we have this one right here, which we of course already know. This is exactly what was happening. Well, not exactly what was happening, but it's very close to what was happening here. Matter of fact, kind of what was happening here on this page. So we could use something like that. Yeah, so see, right down here, this is where I was also playing around with some cover ideas. I don't like the floating head thing. That's not it. That's not gonna work. This one is a scene, if you remember, was from that original issue 1 that I had done. Which, let me hold that up so you can see those again. I thought I had at least all of this ready. One of these days, Celestian will be ready to do the things that he says he's going to do. We're off camera right now. My favorite scene actually was not this whole page, but just this area down here of watching Teos lift up Europa onto the table. I like that, but I also like this scene right here, just this portion of this page here where we have Teos and his full wings, obviously surrounded by, you know, his friends' faces. And if you look carefully, you see something like that is kind of what's happening with the channel background page. I kind of wanted to play around with that idea. I like this, him by himself. We have him floating here, which is kind of cool, I guess. Let's see what else I've got going on. What I need are those original pages back. In there. Okay. I've actually done some really great things. So, like these pages right here, I like. And if you remember last week, I kind of wanted to see what I could do to keep them. And I think I really do like this. I think this would make a really great cover. So let's go with something like that. Let me clear the rest of this space off of here. That was going somewhere. I don't know what that was. This on out of here. This was the original layout for that particular scene. Like the first time I had designed it. And then, here we go. This was what I had wanted. So let's play around with that as that was supposed to be the cover here. So let's look. So we have these eyes right here. And I like that, but I think I just want to kind of have him by himself. So I don't know if you can really see that, so I'm going to take one of my darker pencils here. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to draw him there by himself, because that face really isn't it either. It's not doing it. So actually, this hand was supposed to be down here. Hand was there. Now it looks like he has a bunch of hands. That's a bunch of arms. That's okay. We'll deal with it. I like that. You know, another thing that I really, really like. Now, this goes back to a drawing that I had done years ago at this point. But I thought it was kind of cool. So, what we have is... I don't know why I'm still using that pencil, knowing that you can't see anything because my light is all washed out. Let me see if I can fix this up a little bit. Okay, that's better. This is a Pitt graphite pencil. Can you see that? Faber-Castell. That's what I'm using here. It's just basically a whole stick of graphite. It's a very not at all dynamic pose, but it's kind of in the direction of what I want. So there's that, and I only thought of this because I had drawn this little thing there under him. Now, as I said, what we could do is totally go back to using this. So, I kind of like where this is going, but I want to get rid of these 4 boxes here. So we'll just X those off. We won't even consider them. Of course, he has that long, pretty hair. And we're drawing the crescent under him, only because that's his symbol. And I want to hold on to that. And we have his wings. So that's what that one would look like. What are some other ideas of what we could play around with? Well, let's go back to the pages themselves. So we've got this going on. We see some of the action. That's what we really want to take from. If we're going to adapt, you know, one of these pages into a cover, what about him holding an owl? I think that would be a really cool image. So we've got his hands right here. These are his arms. And we want to draw the sage horn there. His hair. And I think That looks really cool too. Grab another layout page. Some layout sheets here. So we've got those. I really like this one. I think this one is super cool. So we're just gonna put a little check mark next to that one. So we're gonna come back to it. I don't have any. Where are my scissors? Yeah, they are. Okay, what I'm gonna do, because that's the one we're using. I'm just gonna cut it out. It's whatever. There we go. So that's a potential cover that we're gonna use. It's gonna sit right there. Or what's another one that we can use? So I think that one is actually much more interesting. It's a simple pose of the character just holding an animal. It's kind of challenging. I think it'll be really cool to see as a cover. I also really liked this one. So let's go ahead and do a small version of this one so we can play around with that as well. So we want his head there, sage horn, wings, we'll just gesture in like that. This torso. So do that. I like that kinda. Oh, almost forgot. Okay, so we have that going on there. Another one that I think, I'll just do that. Another one that I think would be really neat. Oh, and it just came to me and it's gone already. Dang it. I only tossed it over there because I didn't want to. I don't know. I think I've gotten from this one a few things that I could. What I really want to do in designing this cover is really think about what other things are happening in this issue. And we want to, like I said, just kind of keep that with the action of the issue itself. So let's think about some other things that are happening. I keep coming back to this one. This one may be it. I don't know. So I think both are cool in their own way. I want to get 3. I want to get at least 3 good ones. So we have that. We have that. I might not be able to get 3 because I'm really... Sometimes when I'm working on, just kind of a single image, and that's really what this is. Like, this is an image that could, be standalone. It could be its own print. And that's another way that I really do think about my cover, since I do more than just make comics. As an illustrator, I'm always looking at what images am I creating that can be just their standalone pieces. And that's how I look at my covers. It's a really good way to determine, for me anyway, what a cover should look like. A lot of times too, just the cover itself will just kind of come to me at the same time that the images for the pages do, and I just jot that down. So I don't usually have an entire cover making session. I'm usually just saying, oh, I think this would be really cool as a cover. This, really, I'm not stuck. I'm in there with the theme of the piece, so let's just go ahead and just jot this cover down, and that's going to be my cover. And whatever I come up with, the first draft of that, I'm usually really, really happy about that. So I don't really have to spend a lot of time playing around with it. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening right here, is that, thinking that I want to get at least 3 good ones, I might not be able to get 3 good ones. What I've got right now may be it. So we can stick with these 2 here as the main cover illustrations. I just want to take another look at this because there's some things here. This right here was definitely something that I wanted to play around with. I'm just not sure how that would look as a cover. As its own potential illustration, yes, it would probably look really fantastic. Actually, now that I think about it, that scene was a lot more involved originally when I had originally planned it. So it was that. So what we're gonna do Oh, yes. What about a giant wrap cover? A cover as a 2-page. I've done this before, and it's worked out usually pretty well. Because that's the front cover and the back cover. So... trying to pick which pencil I want. We have 10 back there as the Man Mountain. Here we have Sisson as a mini Man Mountain. There's Mahalia. Selen. We have Europa. Belinda. They're bigger because they're in the foreground. We can spread people around too. Now I can't find my eraser. Where did you go? There you are. Okay. And it's not to, minimize the importance of these folks back here, but there's something about Europa and Belinda that are specifically important to the story. Europa, first of all, is Teos's lover, his partner, so he's obviously very important to the overall story. Belinda, on the other hand, she's more of the second in command of the group, as it were. So a lot of decisions, before she's kind of the leader of them anyway, and Teos has always just kind of deferred to her. He's always looked up to her, kind of like a big sister. And so, the events of this series that are happening, she's still very, very crucial to the group's survival. And, that's on display here as well, as her being such an integral character. Let's go ahead and spread these folks out. Both Mahalia and Selen are also partners, and they're engaged, actually. It's always a fun story that I like sharing about those two. They tend to occupy a lot of times the same frame, and they're roughly about the same height, so they also take up the same plane. So here we have him, and then we have Ganymede right here. So is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Yep, that's perfect. That's everybody. Okay. Actually, I think Sisson should be shorter than Ganymede. Yes, Sisson should be shorter than Ganymede, but Ganymede just needs to be taller. I'm only erasing just because I want to make sure that these guys are in here right. And of course, Tennessee is the tallest out of everybody. So anyway, Belinda is important to the story because she's important to Teos himself. These are the people that everybody who's in this scene right here, who's, in this book with him, he considers them to be specifically family. However, these two right here, and I did put that dividing line in there because obviously this is going to be a fold cover like this, then I want to kind of centralize what's happening in the story and make it so that we see that these two characters are much more important in scope to Teos than these guys back here, but that's not meant to minimize their level of importance. It's just that these two are going to be kind of crucial to the story itself going on. Europa will take on a lot of he'll be right there with Teos through everything that he's going through, and I want to really show that. Meanwhile, Belinda here will be leading the group specifically through a lot of the things that they'll be going through. Kind of hinting at things to come and kind of just trying to play it cool right now. So we'll go with that. So we're going to cut this up here. Alright. So there we have it. Now we've got our 3 covers. And we can go ahead and get rid of this at the moment. I'll just put that right there. I can't really do too much with this the way it is. I mean, obviously, when I go to ink and paint this cover, you know, I'll be using it on this type of paper here. Or I could go with something different, which is what I usually do. Usually when I decide I'm going to paint, to do a cover, I'm usually doing that on a heavier stock of paper. Usually actual watercolor paper. Because, as I said, I look at that and say, this should be a standalone image. Like, I may want to frame the thing, or, you know, want to do more with it, so... However, for this, I probably won't really do too much with this, especially because I'm going to have to really go in and detail these wings properly. We'll obviously have to clean all of this up a lot more, and I don't really want to have to really do too much with that. Like, I may decide, okay, we'll just resketch this page on, you know, my layout and then go from there. Or we may just decide we'll just go with some watercolor paper. Whatever. So for right here, give me a minute. So for right here, we need to decide which of these covers we like the most. I really like these two. So, I like this one only because of the image that it portrays. It's just the character himself just kind of floating in space. I really dig that. This one gives a greater hint of what's happening in the story, and that's why we have the owl here. This one is not just telling a bit of the story here, but also not just a bit of what's happening in that first issue, but also, you know, kind of giving us a hint of the story to come. You know, all these characters, it really shows their level of importance. One thing I remember doing as a standalone image, and this one could still work as its own standalone image if it doesn't work as a cover. One thing I remember doing was something like this. It was all of these characters in front of a giant portal. And then you had Teos in the front, and you had all of the other characters arrayed around him. And I really, really like that cover. So this could really be hinting at that. As it stands, I am very much leaning towards this one. I really dig the idea of the character holding the owl, of Teos holding the owl, as just a greetings or an introduction to the story itself. You know, I guess for me, I would look at that and say, oh, what's happening with this character? Why is he holding this bird like that? And then, you know, opening the book, it's like, oh. So kind of inching towards that. This one I really dig simply because, again, we see all of these characters here, and we get to play around with their level of importance. We get to hint at who all of these characters are. So if you were holding this book and you were looking at these characters, you'd be looking at this cover like, oh wow, there's a lot going on in this front book. And then as you're going through the page, you're like, oh, these characters are right here on the cover. But we don't really get to... The way I have this set up right now as a first issue, I want to focus on Tejas first. And that's why, I like this as its own image, but this is probably not going to be the cover. These two images, however, in this one we're focusing on just him specifically. And that's why I think this is really cool. This one, on the other hand, we're looking at him as, participating in the action in a way. This is kind of challenging. So I'm going to think about it for a little bit. Just let me move this down so you can actually see it. I didn't realize that was so far up. Okay. What do we think? Let me clean up my mess over here a little bit while I'm thinking. The funny thing is, I really originally... Here's that image again. This section right down here. Yeah, I don't think I want to use that one. But, this was definitely kind of going in that direction. As I was making these pages, I was thinking, oh, okay. I also wasn't sure that I wanted him to have the sage horn, but I think it really fits in with what I plan to do with him later. And I definitely want to give that hint of things to come. Because we're telling a bigger story than just him, even though he is kind of the big story here. So I like this one because it's a really great introduction to the character and, kind of the experience of what's likely to happen to him. It really says this is a character that everything is centering around, but, these two are also the characters that everything is centering. I'm just going to go with it. Number 2 it is. We're just going to do it. I keep leaning towards it. We're just going to make it happen. So, now that we have our layout here, let's go ahead and get it down on paper. Give me just a moment. And I'm back. Okay, so if you remember from the last couple of streams that I did, we created these two images. So we have this one right here of Teos sitting. This is an ancient Teos, actually, sitting. And it's still in very, very incomplete stage right now. I still have to color in his hair and really get in more detail down here with these shadows happening. So, but that's where that is. And I like that one. And then we also have this one. It's very much one of our first streams that we did, which, again, same ancient Teos look, but this one is much more complete, except for the hair. The great thing is this type of look is exactly what I was thinking about when I was considering this. Like, how great would that be as a cover? The thing is, though, it doesn't really... I mean, it tells you more than what's actually happening in the story. Do you get what I'm saying? So, yeah, we have this character here. We don't know who he is or what he's doing. But when you go through the pages of the book, you're like, well, we don't get to this point at all. What's happening here? We don't... Like, we still don't know who this character is. You know, we get that, oh, well, he's this character here who's in these pages, but we don't really understand the context of this image. And we probably won't for a while. At least, not at the moment. Maybe some people will be, you know, kind of quicker on the pickup of, like, who this character is and his importance in the story and what he'll turn into. And, you know, maybe it's a great way to foreshadow the story of what's going to be happening, but I don't want to use it as a cover. I think it's just far more than what it should be. I definitely want to dial it back a little bit. And I like this one too, but I also don't think that this one is going to make a really great cover because none of this is actually happening in the story. So, you know, they're great images by themselves. And this is a part of what I mean when I say that I want to, when it comes to creating a cover, I want to create a cover of the characters that could be used as their own image, as their own standalone piece. And that's what these do. But these are not what I want to make as my covers. So we're going to take those and put those aside. And we're going to turn this into its own cover. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's get our page ready, our paper is right there. So I'm going to start with the sage horn only because it's such a prominent feature. And it takes up its own space in the image. Which means everything else will have to be resized accordingly. But I also want to put this owl in here. Now, obviously we run into another issue here where everything is dead center, but yeah, honestly, it's just how it's going to have to be. Everything's going to have to be dead center. Now, design philosophies obviously say that you shouldn't put anything that's going to be dead center because dead center is exactly that, it's dead. I get it. And ordinarily, I would advocate for that too, but lots of times, depending on, you know, what we're working on, we want to work with that. We want to use that very linear look, that very not dynamic look, is what I'll say. His face needs to be a little smaller, or his head rather. I know you probably can't really see too much of what I'm doing here, but I'm going to have him holding our owl friend. Giant hands. It's okay, you can have giant hands if he wants to. And what's great about an initial pencil sketch is you can just go crazy. You can do whatever. Actually, I'm gonna kill the tiny camera so you can see more of what it is I'm doing here. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. You're not distracted by my face. So what's great is that we actually can, I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Like I said, what's great about a pencil sketch is that we can just kind of do whatever we want. So give him a more dynamic pose down here in another way. And then do that up there. Let's fix these arms a little bit. So next, when it comes to really sketching in our owl here, we want to consider, the main thing we want to consider obviously is what kind of owl is it, and we're going to need some reference so that we can get the anatomy correct. So I'm just, just kind of putting some things in here now. Do owls just kind of have their tails just kind of hanging down like this when they're being held? And like, how long is that? What is the overall face of an owl? What kind of owl are we holding here? I'm gonna fix this horn a little bit. It's one thing when, you're creating people with giant horns on their heads. As long as you have your basic human person anatomy, you're fine, and you're just smacking a horn dead center on their forehead. That's whatever. But when you're drawing actual animals of any kind, you want to get the anatomy right. You want to make sure that it looks the way it's supposed to. His head can be a little bigger. So once I drew in the body, just all of this happening down here. I have had it, well, I don't want to say drilled into me to, lay out my faces like this, but yes, actually. We can make this a little more interesting. But what I was saying was, not necessarily drilled into me, but it's just kind of something I've grown accustomed to, just laying out my faces in this way. I don't often need it. Ear should be behind the cheekbone like that. And then the sage horn is kind of doing its own thing right now, and I cannot have it doing its own thing. Okay, there we go. But it does help. whenever I'm drawing a face and I come across, any really difficult portions of the face. I'm having a challenge just trying to lay out where the eyes should be sitting, how big the nose or the lips, and going with just the basic, map out the face like this, and then that, and that, and then that. That actually really helps a lot to really figure out where the face's, the face's parts should be sitting on the face. Shoulders are kind of narrow for that head. There we go. Okay. So I like where that is. Do that just to get his hair in there. I don't know if that's really how the wings are going to look, honestly, but that's what's happening right now. So let's go ahead and just pick an area of the main body to start with. Curly, coily hair. We'll do something like that. For his hair. And now we're going to draw these eyes in. That's his nose. That's his lips. And I can tell you right now, what will end up happening for you is that you will, as you're drawing your faces, you'll find yourself, making the faces that your characters are making. It's normal. It's okay. Just go with it. We all do it. I promise you. And if you don't do it, how are you drawing your faces? give him a beard, but I am trying to define that jaw a little more. There we go. Okay, so we have that there now. Hold on a minute. Forgot to do something real quick. Okay. Sorry, just following up with family. Alright, so we want to get in there. Looks all types of weird what's happening on with that arm right there. Okay. So make sure we've got everything happening here as it should be. Can't see what I'm doing right now with this hand, but let's just move on to this shoulder here. Looks weird. There we go. This elbow is still kind of awkward looking. So let's just go ahead and erase that whole section. One of these days, I will also draw with a tablet. That day is not today. I think that would be kind of cool to, you know, have a tablet where I can do all my layouts and you can just kind of watch as that comes to life that way, as opposed to seeing me do the pencil and paper. I love working with pencil and paper, though. Don't get me wrong. However, I think it'd be super cool to be able to do this digitally. so there's that. Alright, let's do more to gesture in this hand here. I really like where that's going. Alright, so what should he be wearing? Because we actually did not go over that at all. Do we want him in his ancient outfit? Do we want to put him in just his regular clothes that he was wearing at the time these events happened? His hairline is off. Let's just do that. Gesture in this owl a little more. So you can kind of see a little bit more of it. I honestly don't know what's going on with this bird here. So we'll just do that for now. I'm not going to do any reference searches right now on stream. I'm going to save that for when I really want to finish this thing up. But for right now, let's just go ahead and get the main stuff together. Because obviously, I did just kind of decide that this is the cover that I wanted to do. So I was not entirely prepared to be drawing owls today. So I will spare you and not look up well, not unless I can get something really fast. I've got my phone sitting here next to me. There's no real reason why I can't just go ahead and look up some owl reference images. So let's actually do this. Give an idea that this thing is kind of squirming in his grip. So it's not just sitting there. Some things I do remember about the last time I had to draw owls is just kind of how their feet were, but you know, we need to again look at very specific birds, very specific owls, make sure we get them right. I don't know what I just did there, but I lost this one. Okay. Coming back. One thing that I don't really like about working with these types of pencils, well, it's the lead, really. It's the graphite. They kind of sharp, so they tear right through my paper. But I like using them simply because I can get some really great detail with them. Draw the rest of this arm in here. Perfect. Try not to get my head in the shot. As I mentioned before, I have a tendency to do that sometimes, and I want to lean really far in to look at what I'm doing. So, oops, that finger is a little too long. There we go. Spread that finger out a little more down there. Okay, so how do we look? Well, we're looking kind of good. These arms are so awkward looking. Oh my goodness. So I think maybe this bicep is a little on the big side. There. That one. And this forearm needs a little more. There. Oops. Okay, there's that. I still gotta figure out what he's wearing. This dude has bigger muscles than I ever intended for him to have, but I mean, I'll make it work, but crap, his shoulder's a little ambiguous there. Okay, so we've got a decent looking image there. I'm looking up some reference here for our owl friend. Okay, so we are looking forest owl. Ooh. Okay. I like. y'all do your own owl references, but I think I know what I want mine to look like. So we're using a forest owl. Arbitrary decision. So we're gonna do a little bit of this. A little bit of this. We're gonna clean this up a little bit. Head's a little flatter. I've got my phone right here in front of me with the image that I'm using as a reference. In case you're wondering, his eyes probably need to be a little bit bigger. That beak, probably not so much where that's supposed to be. Now, the interesting thing about drawing in this owl is that when I go to ink it, I'll have to be very, very careful about where I make my inking lines and how bold they are, or rather how strong they are, simply because some of this that I'm putting in right now is pretty delicate. It would be very delicate line work. So I wouldn't really be able to rely on a very bold, very thick brush for most of this. Okay, yeah, forest owl was definitely the right decision. And we want these wings to actually be right around in this area, in this range of its head. So there's that. Now let's... Aha! Okay. What I wanted was the tail. So I knew that what I had done down there was not correct. I feel that what ends up happening when you're doing any type of animal in an illustration and you start looking up reference, you end up combining bits and pieces of your reference, of your many references into that final animal, so that they never look just like one particular thing that you've seen. They look like kind of like an amalgamation of things, and I think that's okay so long as you're getting the right details down. It's like once you have the correct details of the animal, you're in good shape. So, you know, you can take a few elements, like maybe there's you know, more striated plumage, or you know, smaller tail for whatever reason. You know, as long as you're getting like the main features that it looks like what it's supposed to be, I feel like you're in really good shape. So what I want to do is actually... There we go. Okay, so still have to come up with some clothes for him. And so that neck is kind of thick. Hold on a minute. Yep, that's me ripping a hole into the paper. So, shoulders covered up by the hair. I love shortcuts. Alright, so as far as I'm concerned, the owl is in a good way. Stop ripping holes into the paper. Now we gotta just focus on the character here. Erasing so much because a lot of this you won't really be seeing anyway. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I need to really look at this here. Since the image was flat for so long, his head is so huge. It is. He's got a very big head. So obviously at this point we need to really look at the image and kind of critique what's going on with it. Since I'm not really at an angle to have the image just sitting up like this, I can't really see everything except in a very distorted way. So I gotta stand this up so I can really see what's happening here, and that head is huge. Ow. I kind of like everything else that's happening here. It's just that in relation to everything else happening here, his head is huge. Okay. And then there's something weird happening here with the shoulder that I don't really like. So now, head's too big. Looks like the arms are kind of doing their own thing as well. I mean, this is another reason why we draw a pencil. His elbows should be like right around here at his sides. Okay, there we go. When looking at your piece, trying to determine what needs to be changed, it's important to step back and really see it for what it is. So I'm going to stand up real quick so I can really take a look at it. Yeah, it's the it's that head. That head is kind of big. So I'll just have to redo it, which is fine. So let me, while I'm up, and of course, with the head being as big as it is, it's kind of really throwing everything else off. So the arms also look kind of tiny, even though we know what's happening with those arms. We should have some foreshortening happening. Alright, let's go ahead and fix this head. Whole thing. Alright, we're going to go with our silver pencil here. Let's just draw a circle in. In case you're wondering, I am indeed standing right now, so I can get this right. I do not have a standing desk, so this is kind of funny, but that'll work. So we're going to continue making some headway. Heh. Pun. We're going to continue working on this. Ear, sage horn, comes out this way since it sticks directly out of his forehead. We can kind of start with that, not really worry about its detail too much. That, and we'll do that. Let's go ahead. I'm trying to make sure I'm not getting my head in the shot again. It's kind of a thing for me. I got a big head too. I don't like when my characters have big heads though. Oh, that is so much better. Yes, I like it. one thing that it has been recommended to me, and I think it's something I may have picked up from art school too, just from my animation classes, make yourself a character Bible. If you are constantly finding yourself working with the same characters for a series that you're doing yourself, and they have, their own specific props, draw them lots and lots and lots and lots of times. Like, really drive yourself, I don't want to say drive yourself crazy with it, but make sure that, you're really giving yourself a lot of actual reference for those characters, things to draw from. Draw their faces a dozen times, draw their bodies a dozen times in different poses at different angles with different things going on, wearing different bits of clothing. Yes, in some cases even wearing nothing at all, so that you can really get a feel for what their body looks like, and you'll start to hammer that into your own head, so that when you go to draw them in any scene, you know exactly what they're supposed to look like, and you'll never end up in the position that I am in right now, where you're like, this character looks nothing like how I've always drawn them before. And you can tell why, because you've given yourself what is called a character Bible. You've got your basic ideas of who the character is and all their you're not really trying to write in their story in that. You're really just giving yourself, you're creating your own reference in the same way that, if you're looking at animal references for a piece, you're going to build yourself a folder, a collection of images that you can refer to, so that whenever you need to draw a particular type of animal, you know what they look like, and you have your own reference library just filled with images of that animal. This is exactly the same thing, only you're doing it for characters that you're drawing. His eyes aren't really looking where they should be right now. And then this thing is a little too deep. My problem right now is that should be narrower. And honestly, what ends up happening is, his face can look like anything as long as it looks good. But I did have a specific look for him, and it's kind of bothering me that I can't seem to get it right. So, and I'm telling you that so that you learn from my mistake and don't do what I'm doing right now, which is trying to fix things on the fly and still have it look the way it's supposed to. His face, the way I had it originally, was perfect. It's just that the head was too big. Expression from his face. His eyes aren't wide enough. That's better. His nose needs some help. There we go. Alright, so I have sat back down. Okay, that's perfect. Well, kind of, sort of. It's better than what it was. His head is not too big. Let's fix what's happening here with his hair and that jaw. You can kind of getting ghosted into the hair there. Let's get that back. Just kind of gesturing in the hair there. Okay. Can at least draw the tip of his ear, which is right there. Or somewhere in that vicinity. Here we go. Actually, no, screw it. His hair is too thick for that. There we go. That's better. Alright, so, again, what is he wearing? That's what we need to really think of. Well, I mean, this obviously will take us into what is he wearing in the book, because that's kind of what I want to keep with. These arms and elbows are driving me crazy. I don't know what in the world I've done. They're just gonna look weird. Okay. You know what? I think I figured out what I did wrong. That entire region. That's actually it right there. Yep, that entire region is just wrong. There we go. Okay. Yep. That's like so much better. Okay. So, now that we've gotten that situated, clothing, costuming, do we want to be like really fun or do we just want to be pretty conservative? Like, you know, I think that's another thing to really consider. Like, when you are dressing your characters, dress them realistically. And I don't mean, you know, oh, their proportion should be this and this. I mean, like, what should this person be wearing? Like, what is their style? This is another thing that you would have in your character Bible. You know, you'd take some sample images of, you know, just models maybe just wearing things. You'd add all that into your character Bible for that particular character and say, these are the types of things that they would wear. These are the types of colors that they would wear based on their personality. The things that you know, all the information that you know about this character, that's what you're going to want to put in there. Yes, your sketches, but also, you know, their poses, their different outfits, their different looks. You're making a lookbook. And you want to kind of consider, you know, from that perspective of your character's style and say, well, you know, he wouldn't really wear this, so why would I put this on him? My character here, you know, would probably wear something with sleeves, so let's draw some sleeves on him. So let's do that right there. And remember, you should follow the contours of their body. And we want to get some nice full lines up there. few wrinkles here. We can tone down the arm detail a little bit because now we're dressing, we're putting some clothing on him. That. Now we're looking at the body. So how tight is this shirt that he's wearing? Yeah, it's probably fitted to him, I would say. So it's probably not like, oh my god, he's, you know, wearing this super tight lycra thing, but it's probably something that, you know, obviously it should be something that he likes wearing. It'll be fitted to his body. So let's get one of these. However, you also should remember that, you know, clothing gets kind of loose in certain places. So we'll do a shirt like that. A lot of times when I'm drawing clothing on my character, I look at my sketch lines to see what I've already gotten down as body mapping. So I know, like, oh, well, maybe that's where a shirt can end right there, as I just did like that. That's, you know, all that was just kind of where I was drawing my circle. And I'm like, oh, well, that seems like a really great place to draw a place for that shirt to end. You do kind of have to be a bit of a fashion designer sometimes as well when you are designing characters. You want to make sure that they look right and that they're wearing things that they would like to wear, but you also have to design a lot of times brand new outfits from the ground up. So, you know, it does pay to really take a look at clothing options, you know, get some clothing reference as well, not just things that your character will wear, but also look at how clothing sits on people. You know, what types of designs are what type of clothing are people wearing right now? Go to your local clothing store, a place where, you know, more accessible clothing can be had, like a Target or a Walmart, and say, oh, well, let me just kind of take a look at some of these things. Look in those magazines, you know, the circulars and whatnot, just to really get a feel for the types of things that people are actually wearing. So he's got that on. Let's also do one of these things here. Let's bring that a little lower. And we'll do like a bit of a trim. Okay, so because you want to see how, again, you really want to see how clothing actually sits on people. And, you know, there are a lot of, the human body has so many curvy, tube-shaped things going on with it. Let's put some belt loops in here. Perfect. Now you know what needs some length here. Yes, the whole nine. And then you can just kind of draw on the rest of the details here. You know, this pants should have pockets. wearing some jeans or something, and there we go. We also want to get our body wrinkles right up in here. Show that he's wearing something there. Okay, and there we go. So let's take a look at that. Looks good to me. Really digging it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here and watching me come up with this cover image. So what's the next step is obviously the inking process. If you notice, I also left this nice big area up here. This is where the actual copy for the cover will actually sit. So we almost always want to leave some space right here when we're working on our covers, just so we have, you know, that area, so we know where everything is supposed to be sitting. So the image will pretty much take down was like the lower 3/4 of the page, and at the top 1/4 we have all that space left over. That's just, you know, for the actual copy to sit. The logo, the imprint label, the book title, all of that stuff will be there. Meanwhile, we have this really fantastic image that we can now use as our cover. And I think this is a really, really solid cover right now. What I'm gonna do in between, you know, now and the next time we come back is I'm gonna actually go ahead and make sure that my anatomy is correct and make sure that everything looks the way it's supposed to look, and then I'm probably just going to ink it. I don't know if you want to see me inking on screen, we may do that, but I definitely want to continue working on this and really get this to the next stage off camera. So I want to thank you for joining me. If you came by and participated, definitely, you know, share this video. Tell your friends that, hey, there's this guy on Twitch, he's drawing, you know, comics. I really do appreciate, you know, any feedback or any type of notoriety that comes with you guys seeing me do this. I'm not trying to be your art teacher on the web. I am really just a guy making comics, so I do appreciate you sharing my work and really passing around the links and likes and all that fun stuff. So this video will go up on the YouTube page, so if you haven't stopped by there, you can check that out at Illustrator of Fantasies, and this will be, you know, something there. And if you go to the Facebook page, I'm gonna get a nice shot of this, and that'll also go right there on the Facebook page, so we can definitely see where we are right here. And no matter what stage we are at, you know, I'll always take a shot of the final work that where we've ended, and we'll just go from there. And you'll get to see that on the Twitter page, on Twitter, as well as the Facebook page. I said Twitter page, yes, I said Twitter page. So again, thank you for stopping by. Really, really hope that you come by again. I'll catch me later. Thanks, guys. Take care.